bosses, welcome back to Boston. To my new bosses, hey girls, hey guys. And to my returning bosses, how y'all doing? Y'all make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe to videos, okay? And also make sure you hit that notification bell so you will notify each and every time I drop a video. So let's get into it, y'all. This is video 2 on how to start a business, okay? So there are different types of business structures. Look at my previous video. I'll link it set it as an big screen at the end of this video so that you can watch that video first. That was video number 1 on just talking about what a business is and just kind of walking you through the steps on trying to decide what type of business you want to create and all those good things. Today we want to talk about business structure, okay? Business structure is basically based off of how you want to be taxed. Because Uncle Sam is going to come a-coming, okay? He's a-coming and he's going to get his, all right? So, in addition to how you want to be taxed, a business structure also determines what type of partnership you want to have. So you all know you have sole proprietorship. Let's just go ahead and run down each and every one, okay? So sole proprietorship means basically that it is owned and operated by one individual. That's a sole proprietorship. One owner, one operator. Or well, basically one owner, one operator. And also from a tax perspective, a sole proprietorship, every liability and every profit that the business makes, that is filed on the owner's taxes. I'm going to say that again. A sole proprietorship is a business that is owned and operated by one individual, and the profit and losses for that business is filed on the owner's taxes. Okay? The next type of business we have is a partnership. Okay? And a partnership is 2 or more people who owns the business. Y'all see my puppy, that's because he's down here wanting to be aggravating. But a partnership is owned by 2 or more people. And you can have what they call a general partnership where the liability is shared amongst the owners. Okay. Or you can have what they call a limited partnership where one or more partners, the liability falls on one or more partners. And then there's also what they call pass-through taxes. And basically that means that the profits are taxed on the owner's personal taxes. I know that was a lot. Okay. So again, let's go over partnership. Partnership is 2 or more people. You can have a limited partnership where one person may not incur as much liability as the other partner. And then, of course, you have, from a tax perspective, you have what they call pass-through taxes, where the profit and losses are filed or taxed. The profits are taxed on the on one owner's personal taxes, and that will be their losses as well. Okay. The next business structure is what we call a limited liability corporation. A limited liability corporation, better known as an LLC. Okay. So basically, what a limited liability corporation does, it combines the protection of a corporation with the tax flexibility of a partnership. Okay. The owners are members of a limited liability corporation. They're not owners, they're members. Okay. And you could choose to be taxed as a sole partnership for an LLC, or you could be taxed as a corporation for an LLC. So basically, the company, the LLC itself, can hold its own taxes, or you can choose to have the taxes for the LLC be taxed on your taxes, if that makes any sense, your personal taxes. So again, a limited liability corporation combines the protection of a corporation with the tax flexibility of a partnership. So you can divvy out the tax responsibilities, the taxation amongst the members. And again, the owners are members for a LLC, okay? And we'll go more in depth with the taxation pieces later. I just kind of wanted to, today's video is just for the purposes of going over the definition of the different types of business ownership that you can create. And again, these business ownership depends on how you want to be taxed, in addition to the amount of liability you want to be responsible for, in addition to how if you're going to have a partner, how you want your partnership to be structured, okay? That will help you determine what type of business structure you want to create, all right? The next business structure is what we call a corporation, all right? So basically, a corporation, the best way I explain a corporation is just like, consider a corporation to be its own, a person. It is. It's called an entity. A corporation is a non-living entity, and the owners are shareholders, okay? They're not owners, they're shareholders. They hold shares within the corporation. That's their ownership, okay? And we'll get into detail when we kind of streamline it a little bit more as far as like what percentage, shareholder percentages and all those things. But for now, for the sake of today's video, we're just going over the definitions, okay? Again, a corporation is separate from its owners. It's its own person. The owners are shareholders. And when you look at that from its own entity perspective, from a taxation point of view, the corporation is responsible for its own taxes. Okay, not the shareholders, but the corporation. The corporation will have its own taxes filed against it. Okay, and not the downside, this may not matter to some people, but remember now, if a corporation is its own entity and it's going to file its own taxes, guess what? You're going to have what we call double taxation for the shareholders, right? Because if you own a corporation, the business is going to have its taxes, and you as a shareholder, you're going to file your own individual taxes from the profits that you incur from the business. I'm going to say that again. I know it's a bit confusing. A corporation is its own business person, its own entity. Therefore, a corporation will have its own taxes filed against it based off of the profit and losses of the corporation. You are a shareholder. So whatever the corporation pays you, you're going to in turn file your taxes off of those monies, off of the profits for the corporation. The corporation is going to file against its own profit and loss. Whatever the corporation pays you as a shareholder, whatever monies you receive from your corporation, that's your individual income. So you're going to have to pay taxes on that income. That's where the term double taxation comes into play. Because the corporation is paying taxes, you own the corporation, you're paying taxes from the business perspective for the corporation, and you're going to be paying taxes for the individual taxes from the profits that you got or the payments you got from the corporation. Okay? And a lot of people that don't like that. That's why a lot of people revert to it in LLC, because they don't want the double taxation. Okay? The last business structure is what we call an S corp. Okay? And that is a special type of corporation that avoids the double taxation. Okay? The profit and losses that they can pass through the shareholders' personal tax returns. So instead of the corporation itself having to pay taxes on the profit and losses, the shareholders will assume the tax liability for the profits and losses for the corporation. Okay? And then, of course, there are restrictions on the number and the types of shareholders that's a part of a corporation because of that. Last, I'm going to say it again. An S corp is a special type of corporation. There are restrictions on the number of shareholders for this particular type of corporation, as well as the types of shareholders for this particular corporation. And again, the S corp is a special type of corporation that allows the profit and losses to be transferred to the shareholders' tax returns. Okay? All right. So today we went over sole proprietorship, one owner, all the taxes go on their tax returns. We went over partnership, 2 or more owners. Both owners can assume the responsibility for the tax returns, or you can have a limited partnership where the liability for the company falls on one individual versus more so the other individual, okay? And with that, you have the pass-through taxation. Pass-through taxation is basically the profits are taxed on the owner's personal taxes. The next form of business is what we call limited liability corporation. With the limited liability corporation, it combines the liability protection of a company. It is flexible with the types of partnerships you can have in a limited liability company. The owners are called members. They're not owners, but members of the LLC. Okay? And again, you can choose to be taxed as a sole proprietor on an LLC, or you could choose to be taxed in the form of partnership or the corporation itself. Then you have what we call a corporation. The owners of a corporation are called shareholders. They own shares. They own, slices of that company. Okay? And then, of course, the corporation in and of itself is its own individual entity. Therefore, it files its own taxes, which can cause what we call double taxation. The business has to pay taxes, and then the shareholders pay taxes based off of the income that they receive from the corporation. And then last but not least, we have what we call the S corporation, which is a special type of corporation setup that avoids the double taxation. The profits and the losses from this can pass through to the ownership's taxes. The shareholders' taxes. That is the profit and the losses can pass through to the shareholders' taxes. And then again, for a S corp, there are restrictions on the number of shareholders that can own an S corp and the types of shareholders that can participate in an S corp. Okay? That's it for today's video. Do some more research so that you guys can better understand these different types of business structures. Sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability corporation, which is an LLC, corporation, and S corp, which is a special type of corporation that avoids the double taxation process. Now, as you're starting your business, again, do your research to determine what type of business structure you want to have. Now we know what type of business we want to create. Next video will be me walking you through how to obtain a tax ID for your business, excluding sole proprietorship. Because remember, sole proprietorship, taxes fall under you, so that will be your social security number. You don't need a tax ID for, I don't think you do. Let me double check on that. I don't want to misspeak. So the next video, we will be walking you through on how to obtain a tax ID for your business. And then the video after that will be us now establishing our mission for our business and our business plan. All right, y'all, this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice in what? Be glad in y'all. Take care. We'll speak with y'all soon. Bye-bye.